No hospitals, no doctors, no anesthesia, just a woman, the people closest to her, and whatever knowledge the women before her had passed down. And here's what nobody tells you. The moment a baby arrived in the ancient world wasn't just a medical event. It triggered a chain of rituals and decisions that reveal everything about how those people understood life, death, and what it meant to be human. Some of it will surprise you, some of it will disturb you, and some of it will make you wonder whether we've actually improved as much as we think we have. Let's start with the birth itself. Human childbirth is, biologically speaking, genuinely strange. Every other great ape, chimps, gorillas, orangutans, gives birth relatively easily. The infant comes out in about an hour. The mother usually does it alone, quietly. Human birth is completely different. When our ancestors began walking upright, it reshaped the pelvis in a way that made childbirth dramatically more difficult. The baby now had to rotate as it passed through the birth canal, a complex maneuver that no other primate performs. This created a problem that changed the entire structure of human society. You couldn't do it alone. Scientists studying the fossil record now believe that because of this rotational birth mechanism, midwifery, a helper present at birth, is a deeply rooted behavior in our species. Not a modern invention, not a cultural tradition, a biological necessity going back millions of years. So, the very first thing ancient humans did when labor began was gather. The women came, every single time. Midwives and female relatives formed the inner circle, offering physical support, practical help, and accumulated medical knowledge passed down by word of mouth across generations. Some of that knowledge was genuinely effective. Certain plants were used for their pain-relieving properties. Willow bark, for instance, contains the same active compound as aspirin. Specific birthing positions, squatting, kneeling, were widely used because they worked with gravity rather than against it. There were women in these groups whose entire identity and value to the community was knowing how to bring life into the world safely. This was a profession, thousands of years before the word existed. And then the baby arrived. The first minutes after birth were among the most consequential of any human life. And what happened next will make you uncomfortable. The baby didn't have a name yet, and its survival was not guaranteed. Not by love, and not by hope. In the ancient world, only mature, healthy infants were considered fit to survive. Premature or severely deformed infants were often left to die from exposure. This sounds brutal, and it was, but it reflects a reality we have largely forgotten. Newborns faced a mortality rate of up to 35% in the ancient world. 1 in 3 babies did not survive their first year. Resources were limited. A band of 25 people could not always absorb another mouth that was unlikely to survive. But here's what makes this complicated. When the baby was healthy, when it cried, when it was clearly strong, the response was the complete opposite of indifference. The whole camp responded. In the Eke Pygmy communities of Central Africa, a newborn has, on average, 14 different caregivers besides its mother. Fathers, grandparents, siblings, neighbors. By the time an Eka baby is 18 weeks old, it actually spends more time being held by people other than its mother than by its mother herself. 14 caregivers. Let that land for a moment. This wasn't a village raising a child. This was a village being the child's entire world. Scientists now call this cooperative breeding, and they believe it was essential to human survival. In modern life, new parents often feel desperately isolated. We treat raising a baby as a private, nuclear family matter. But that is not what we evolved to do. Not even close. Even after the baby survived those critical first days, the community still wasn't finished. The child still had no name. In ancient Rome, infants were not officially named until the 8th day after birth for girls, or the 9th day for boys. Specifically because infant mortality was so high that naming a child who might not survive was considered too painful. Only on that day did a formal gathering take place. Family came. Gifts were brought. Offerings were made to the gods. And only then was the child named and welcomed into the community. Go further back in time, and the pattern holds. Archaeologists studying prehistoric burial sites have found that many ancient cultures held newborns in what researchers describe as a liminal state, present, but not yet fully a person, before formally welcoming them into the group. It wasn't coldness, it was grief management. It was a community protecting itself from the pain of losing someone it had already fully loved. And then there's something almost nobody knows about. Something that stunned European explorers when they first encountered it. When a baby was born, sometimes the father went to bed, not the mother, the father. This practice, called kuvade, has been traced back to ancient Egypt. When a child was born, the father would take to his bed, fast, undergo purification, and observe strict behavioral rules, as if he himself had just given birth. European explorers thought it was absurd, but modern anthropologists read it completely differently. Kuvad was a public declaration. The father was announcing to the entire community, "This child is mine. I claim it. I take responsibility for it." In a world without written records or legal documents, this ritual was the social contract. It was the ancient world's birth certificate. So here is what actually happened when a baby was born in the ancient world. Experienced women gathered to make the birth as safe as they knew how. The group assessed the infant honestly, because survival demanded it. If the baby was strong, it was passed from hand to hand through the whole camp. The father performed rituals to publicly claim his child. And for days, the community waited before the formal moment when the child was named and declared a full member of the human world. It was not gentle by our standards, but it was not cold either. It was a community doing what communities do when the stakes are real, pulling together, sharing the weight. We have gained so much since then: the medicine, the safety, the survival rates that would seem miraculous to any ancient mother. But somewhere along the way, we lost the village. We moved birth into hospitals and parenthood into private homes. We replaced 15 caregivers with 2 exhausted people and a phone screen. We replaced the naming ceremony with a social media post. And when new parents today say they feel alone, overwhelmed, and unsupported, they are not failing at something simple. They are living in a way that their biology was never designed for. For 300,000 years, no one raised a child alone, not once. And the fact that we now expect people to, may be one of the quietest, most overlooked losses in modern life.